Dark Souls cured my depression is a thing that a lot of people say. I mean, just look at the YouTube search results. And I totally get why. It's a game about overcoming adversity through hard work and planning. But here's the thing. Dark Souls has a wiki, and the real world has the internet. Real life is full of challenges. Hard challenges. Sometimes challenges that no one can help you with. I'm sure we've all tried to get personal advice on the internet. It's easily accessible at any time with just the click of a few buttons. You could join a Discord server with people in your hobby. You could find advice on Reddit. You could even go to one of many artificial intelligences. And the best part is, no one needs to know you're asking. But I'm here to tell you that there's a better source of advice. Real life connections. Today, I'm going to go through all the reasons why asking for advice in real life is better for you. And the best part, it's not just better for you, it's better for all of society. Now, I am going to caveat this with the disclaimer that this is mostly for personal life advice type of questions. So before you write that angry comment, at least pause and give this a read. Alright, let's get started. First off is Reddit. There are a lot of subreddits for advice. And I mean a lot. We got the silly ones, we got the serious ones, and we got everything in between. I've seen some good stuff on there, don't get me wrong. But the big problem I see here is that the internet can only know as much as you tell it. There are some pretty decent posts of people going very into detail about their situation. That's fine and all, but we don't have any way of knowing what they missed. When you write these types of posts, you have to put yourself in the mindset of someone who knows nothing about you. The only bits they know about you are what you write down. And honestly, you could get any advice you want depending on what you write. And even if you are trying to be as honest as possible, there's always going to be something you don't mention. Let me illustrate this with a hypothetical scenario. I'm Alex. I have a friend named Bob. And I've been having some trouble with feeling imposter syndrome at work. It's kind of a sensitive topic, and I'm not sure how to approach it. I feel lost. I could do one of two things right now. I could go to the internet for advice, or I could ask our friend Charles for advice. With the internet, there is no way I will be able to encapsulate the entire situation in a post. Nobody knows me, nobody knows Charles, nobody knows the work situation, and nobody knows my coworkers. On top of that, even if I do manage to somehow encapsulate every detail in a perfectly fair way, I have no way of making sure someone on the other end reads it. They might not read your whole post before responding. They might project their own unrelated experiences onto your post. Many people have imposter syndrome. They all experience it a little bit differently. It's a common problem. But their experience can be totally different from yours in hundreds of ways. And that's where real life friends come in. Talk to someone who actually knows you and your work life. They're going to automatically know a lot of the fine details so that even if you miss something, they'll have the context. They'll tailor their advice to you. But what if none of my friends are therapists or none of them know about my work situation? That's a fair point. But I'd respond with this. Does it matter? Obviously, it depends on the severity of the problem, but I'd argue that there's a trade-off. Friends in real life know much more about your personal experience and your personality. People on the internet may have more collective knowledge, but it is impossible to sift through as a single person. We all have innate biases. No one is immune to confirmation bias when it comes to searching for things. And that can get in the way when you're looking for advice on the internet. Going to a friend can cut out that bias because you're not doing the searching on your own. And just be honest about what biases you have, and it'll help you get closer to the root of the problem. And hopefully you'll feel better. Now, there are many other problems with asking the internet for advice. I could talk about how the internet can give you a false sense of improvement. I could talk about echo chambers and how you can get different info depending on where you go. I could talk about how some statistics can be used to represent different viewpoints depending on who you go to. I could talk about the fact that it doesn't require any certification at all to give advice on the internet. I could even talk about the rise of AI and how it can sometimes hallucinate completely irrelevant results. But I want to take a different angle: how asking for help on the internet can take away from real life human connection. When Alex asks Charles for advice, something very subtle but very important happens. There's an opportunity to have vulnerability and acceptance, a small window where even if the advice is terrible, it can create a closer connection between two people. Think back to the friends you have closest in your life, the people you value the most. All relationships are different, but it's those people who stick with us when we're at our lowest or our most exposed that we tend to value the most. Maybe one of you helped the other through a tough time, or maybe both of you suffered through something together. Vulnerability creates room for reality, and reality makes room for real bonding. Some of the best friends I have are also the ones who have seen me at my worst. People who I know will listen to me, even if I do the wrong thing. Every opportunity to ask for advice is an opportunity to deepen connections. And every time a question is asked on the internet, an opportunity gets thrown away. It's really easy to see the downsides of asking people for advice in real life. Yes, they might not know the answer to your question. They might be unaccepting of your problem. They might even make fun of you for it. But it's hard to see the subtle value in asking for help. I'll throw an anecdote in from my own life. I Google search for life advice all the time. For me, the big one is dating advice. I suck at talking to women. I'm terrible at dates, and honestly, I'm pretty embarrassed to ask for help about it. It was something that I would always ask for help anonymously about. But one day, I just decided to switch it up and ask a friend about it. It was a refreshing conversation for me. The advice was actually pretty good, and I felt better about myself. They told me about how the first time they met me, I came off as super serious. It's a little weird, but it's something that would never even come up if you asked the internet for advice. People on the internet can't really tell that you might be coming off as intimidating in the first interaction. A common complaint I hear about social media is that it makes everyone project only the good parts of life. You know, the wedding photos, vacation pictures, cool parties. It's really easy to see how an app like Instagram could amplify the best of people and hide their vulnerabilities. But even without social media, it can happen every time you ask for help on the internet. It's taking something you need help with and using anonymity when asking for support. You're just hiding the bad part of you, hoping to get some advice to become good, and then show everyone else the good side without showing the bad part. It's a way to avoid showing others the less than perfect side of you. Now, here's where we come full circle. I don't know you, the viewer, but I'll ask you a question. When is the last time you asked your parents for advice? And now a follow up question: how well do your parents know you? Now, I totally acknowledge that generational gaps can make parents a terrible source of advice. I'm not denying that at all. But tiny things like this can cause our real relationships to drift apart. Just a few decades ago, if you had a question about your life, there was basically no one on the internet to help you. You had to go to someone in real life, and oftentimes that was your parents. Now, with advances in AI, it's as easy as the click of a button to get life advice. There are AI engines that can answer any question you have, and they can give you pretty good advice, honestly. I'm not denying that. Now, sometimes AI can give good advice, sometimes it's bad, but there's no human connection. Here in the US, we have an epidemic of loneliness. And while we can point to things like the lack of third places, algorithmic social media, there is a small sliver of hope. The next time you need advice and you want to use the internet, just pause and think about that invisible cost you're paying. Now, I realize it's a bit silly for me to make a video giving you advice when the whole point of the video is to tell you to not take advice from the internet. And that's why I want to end this video with a challenge. I challenge you, the viewer, to pause the next time you Google search for life advice. And when you pause, instead of typing the question into a search bar, type it into a chat message to a friend. I want you to view your next question as an opportunity to choose real life connection over convenience. And I'm also going to challenge you to let me know in the comments section what you think. Do you find yourself asking for help from the internet a lot? Do you feel like you learned something from this video? If so, hit that like button and subscribe. It'll motivate me to make more stuff like this. And as always, thanks for watching. Hope you learned something, and I'll see you in the next video.